Your Best Manager, episode 42.
If you're telling someone who's new to the company about her, she's the person who everyone smiles about when they talk about. And that's not because she's a pushover either. She really holds people accountable, but she's the person who, if anyone had the option to, they'd probably choose her as their mentor.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Your Best Manager podcast, featuring interviews with senior managers and leadership experts, as well as practical advice for first-time managers. And after today's show, be sure to hop over to yourbestmanager.com and check out the free management course, Fully Engaged in 10 Days, where you will learn 3 critical components to increasing employee engagement on your team. Have fun! No back row, everybody. This is Jamie Newman here, and I'm excited to be joined by Nicole Thomsen today. Nicole, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Jamie.
It's a privilege to have you on the show, Nicole. Nicole Thomsen leads the corporate recruiting team at education technology company 2U, which is headquartered in Landover, Maryland. Nicole brings over 8 years of talent acquisition, employer branding, culture advocacy, and leadership to her current position, in which she has directly impacted and overseen 2U's employee population growth from under 200 to over 1,200 in less than 6 years and across 6 office locations. Nicole obtained her undergraduate degree in management, marketing, and philosophy from the University of Scranton and is presently pursuing her MBA at UNC Chapel Hill's Kenan-Flagler School of Business. And as I alluded to at the opening here, their corporate philosophy is no back row. So, Nicole, I'm going to ask you to walk us through your career path in a minute. But before I do that, can you tell us a little bit more about 2U and what exactly you mean by no back row?
Absolutely. So 2U partners with leading educational institutions to deliver top quality graduate programs online. The idea behind our technology is that there is no back row. Given the technology, the way that it's set up, the in-class sizes of no more than 15, it reaches every single student. So everyone actually is in the front row.
Oh, cool. So, and I'm curious, we may get into this a little bit later, but with it being like a technology-based, what type of interaction is it? Because I've done online courses where you just watch a video and answer a quiz, and that's really it. So is this different?
This is very different. So the software as a service technology and technology-enabled services give our partner universities the comprehensive operating infrastructure that they need to attract and enroll and educate all of our students globally. So there's a combination of both synchronous and asynchronous content. So while you will access some of the content via the online campus, you'll access the rest of the content via live weekly in-person classes, which are held over Adobe Connect.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And something else very cool that I found out after Nicole and I connected is that Nicole used to work for the same company that I did, which is Aerotech. And not only that, but we both started within a couple weeks of each other, which is crazy. So I have mad respect for you, Nicole, just because I know what type of training Aerotech provides, and I know what type of intense culture and opportunistic culture they have. But Nicole, I don't want to steal your thunder, so why don't you take a couple minutes and walk us through your career path and just how you got to where you are today?
Well, likewise, Jamie, and you were there much longer than I was, so that certainly doesn't hurt.
You know what though? How long were you there? Just under 3 years?
Just under 3 years, yeah.
I relocated about that same time from one office to another, and had I not, I don't know if I would have been there so long. So it's sometimes you hit that moment where like I need a change, and I needed a change almost at the exact same time that obviously you took a change.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So just a very quick background on my own career. I started working at Aerotech immediately after finishing my undergraduate degree, and it was a tough time. It was right when the economy was taking a nosedive and we were in the Great Recession, and even a very profitable company like Aerotech wasn't immune from it. But I was lucky enough to move over to a new manager, new to me anyways, in a little less than a year, and she was incredible. She taught me how to be a business person and taught me what a really good manager was like and how they should conduct themselves. And she and I still keep in contact today. But that said, I always knew that I wanted to work in higher education. And since I knew I wanted to work in higher education, I very aggressively pursued a career path at TU. And I was lucky enough that they took a chance on me as a corporate recruiter back in late 2010, early 2011. And I've been here ever since and have taken on probably more senior roles on the corporate recruiting team over the last 6 years.
Very cool. And you guys have been through some tremendous growth, it seems like.
We have. When I started with the company, we were something just short of 200 full-time employees, at least when I was hired. That's what it was. And we've been growing very, very aggressively ever since then. We've added just about 1,000 employees since I've started, and that also includes opening up a brand new office in downtown Denver, which in the last year and a half we've grown to 175 people.
That's crazy. And I was on your website earlier, and it feels like you've got 2,000 jobs open right now.
I think that my recruiters would say the same thing.
That's what it feels like. I'm exaggerating. There's probably about 100, but that's still a lot.
Just about 100, yes.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on building a successful career, Nicole. And here's the big question for today's interview. And you've already kind of mentioned, so I think I may know who it is, but it may be someone totally different. So when you look back on your career, who was your best manager? And maybe it wasn't a manager, so it could be a mentor, but who had the most significant influence on your career, and then why?
Well, as wonderful as that lady was who I was just talking about, the person who's had the biggest impact on my career is someone who I work with here at 2U, who at the time ran human resources. And a couple of years ago, she transitioned over to a new role, still in an executive position. And it was incredible because she practiced what she preached. And she took a leap to a new area of 2U's business and really thrived. On top of doing that, and on top of all the responsibilities that came along with her new role, she also started a mentoring group for women at 2U. Mm-hmm. The mentoring group is really incredible because she tapped women from every single level in the company, staff, manager, director, vice president, and everywhere in between, and across all different functions: program operations, finance, marketing, HR, facilities, technology, and has this group come together on a monthly basis. And we talk about challenges that we're having. We talk about wins that we're having. We share advice and best practices. She has us all on a Slack channel. And there's this amazing sense of camaraderie that has really filtered through the rest of the organization, such that there are other executive women in the company who've started their own offshoot mentoring groups as well.
Oh, cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
What do you think it is about her that, and you can answer this a couple ways. Why do you think she did it? And why is that important to you as a employee of hers?
She did it for a couple of reasons that I can see. One, she's exceptionally passionate about it. And she's had some amazing opportunities. She's been written up in the Washington Post. She's spoken at the Simmons Women's Leadership Forum in Boston previously. And it's something that she has this genuine, sincere passion for. And she also knows that there have been a lot of people who've taken a chance on her and who've mentored her. And she doesn't take that lightly, and she knows how much she has to give. And the way that I think is my favorite way of describing how she is in the company, which is really incredible, is if you're telling someone who's new to the company about her, she's the person who everyone smiles about when they talk about. And that's not because she's a pushover either. She really holds people accountable, but she's the person who, if anyone had the option to, they'd probably choose her as their mentor.
That's awesome. And you know what? That comes up so much on the show. It just seems that effective leaders have an ability to balance the authoritative results and as well as the care for people. And that's a lot easier said than done, right?
Absolutely. And watching her toe that line. And she's also really honest about her own challenge with that and finding the line. And I think it's that, I keep saying the sincerity, but it's that sincerity and that honesty about the fact that it doesn't come easily. It's hard to do.
Yeah, definitely a challenge, and I think oftentimes, especially new managers, they fall into one bucket or the other. And I've heard it said that you first want to be that people person, be everybody's friend when you first get promoted, and then you got to try and figure out how to overcome the next transition and actually get stuff done. So, and speaking about challenges, I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about some of the challenges you've faced, because you've had quite a bit of growth in your own career from a management standpoint over the past 8 years. So what do you think is the biggest challenge you faced as a manager, or maybe even the biggest commonality of challenges that you face in management?
So I can actually point it back to one pivot point. And as a recruiter, I'm something of an extrovert. And I realized that at first I was hiring a lot of extroverts. My biggest challenge that I faced in my management career was actually hiring my first introvert and then not even realizing that I had hired an introvert at first. It wasn't until I had pulled my team together to do a guided Myers-Briggs exercise that I realized that not only did I have this one introvert, but I also had people who weren't necessarily as extroverted as I thought. And I'm using introversion and extroversion as big, general, sweeping terms. There were a lot of things about people's personalities that were, certainly unique to each of them. And as much as everyone says this to you, you really need to manage everyone a little bit differently. Not everyone can fall under the same bucket. At least if your goal as a manager, and it certainly was mine, is to grow your people and to help each of them get to the next level.
Yeah. So how do you overcome that, or how did you overcome that? Because that can be pretty dangerous. I mean, I've been in a very similar situation where I'll say one thing to one person, they get fired up, and I say the same thing to the other person and they don't, and I think it's that person's fault, not mine. Because I'm like, well, the message worked before. Why doesn't it work with you? So how do you actually fix that?
Absolutely. And that's tough because there's something to be said for being consistent, but being consistent doesn't necessarily mean being the same. And the biggest challenge, and also I'd say that this segues into my biggest piece of advice for a new manager, is to meet people where they are, not where you are. So this is where being a manager takes a lot of introspection and thinking a lot about, okay, this is where I am, and I need to have a healthy place to talk things through or to vent. And this is where your own manager or a mentor or even physical exercise can be really good to work through some of those things. And then consider the message that the person needs to hear and say it in a way that they need to hear it. And it's really by trying to put yourself in his or her shoes and say, okay, if I'm this person and these are the challenges that I'm facing, what are some of the things that I would need to hear that are going to motivate me now and in the long term?
Yeah, and I think that's so important. Oftentimes, I think we're tempted to just be very selfish or to think, point almost everything around us as the manager. And when you actually try and put yourself in the shoes of your employees, you can learn so many things. And I love what you said. And I tried to write it down, so correct me if I don't get this exact, but you said being consistent doesn't mean being the same. Yeah, I didn't screw that up. Nice.
Yeah.
That is so good, because I think a lot, at least for me personally, and I think even corporately in today's workforce, there's a lot of time spent on repeatable behavior, and repetition, again, doesn't necessarily mean a duplication. So love that you shared that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's jump back to today, Nicole, and why don't you tell us something that is exciting happening in your world right now?
Well, the timing of this is absolutely perfect because just this week we moved into our new headquarters. So we are across the way from Landover, Maryland in Lanham, Maryland. And you can see the two of them. It's just varying zip codes. But we are in an absolutely stunning new headquarters. And we're all there in especially the same floor as opposed to a couple varying office suites. And our team has just done an amazing job of making a place that feels up to date and technically savvy, but still so warm and inclusive. And it's just such a reflection on how well we're doing as a company and all of the growth that we've experienced in terms of the number of university partners we've added, in terms of the number of employees we've added, and just how hard everyone works around here. It feels we're like a whole bunch of kids on opening day or something like that. So
that is cool. So there's a video on your website. I think it has to do with maybe your culture. Maybe it's on the careers page or something like. Was that shot in the new office or the old office?
Oh, that's the old office, but it's not just the old office. That video is about at least a year and a half to 2 years old now, but that's actually shot in a number of our offices. It's been shot in Landover, in New York City, in Chapel Hill, in Los Angeles. I think we might even have some Hong Kong clips in there.
Oh, cool. Well, you will definitely have to update the video with your new office at some point, but anyone who's listening and wants to kind of get an idea of the type of culture. Now, obviously it's a pretty short video, but I thought it was pretty cool. I was like watching it being like, I want to go work here. So super cool stuff. Now, something that we talk about on every episode, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say about this just based on what you've done through your career, but we talk about the value and importance of personal and professional self-development, and kind of from the concept of, if you are always waiting for your company to do something for you, you're not going to accidentally land in your dream job. So can you maybe just talk about some of the things that you've done in your own personal life or professional life to develop yourself?
Absolutely. And there's a couple pieces here. And that's the biggest advice that I'll give to people, manager, non-manager, is you can't, exactly what you just said, Jamie, which is you can't wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder and tell you what to do in your career. You really need to be the person in the driver's seat. So finding not just one mentor, but finding multiple mentors and people who can give you alternate points of view and hopefully disagree with you about some things to challenge your own worldview. Second is investing in your own education. And I say that in a very broad way because it means different things for different people. For some people, that means things like conferences. For some people, that means expanding what they do in their personal life, right? Like going to a cooking class. Mm-hmm. But then because that helps them to recenter. And then for other people, it means that full plunge of going to graduate school. And that's certainly what it meant for me. And when I was in a leadership role and trying to figure out whatever meant when they said you need to be more strategic, and I was like, what does that mean? And because that just sounds like words to me, it was a little bit of a wake-up call to realize that I needed to go and find ways to own that. And that was actually what led me to pursuing my MBA, which I never thought I would need at all. But it has been one of the things that has really given me the opportunity to stretch what I know and how I think about things. And it doesn't hurt that we're an education company and we have an amazing tuition reimbursement program. But at the same time, this is one of those things that I would encourage people to go out and seek and find a program that fits you if that's something that is of interest, and to negotiate things like tuition reimbursement when you can.
So you've got, if I'm listening, I could do an entire MBA through 2U. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have several partner programs. I'm enrolled in UNC, which is the Kenan-Flagler School of Business. We partner with several others, including Syracuse University, American University, and we just signed a new partnership with Dayton in Ohio.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very exciting. And speaking of self-development, maybe you could actually also recommend a book, because obviously reading is an important, not the only, and shouldn't be necessarily the relied upon way to develop yourself. But if I'm a new manager and I'm wanting to pick up something to read to help me develop some leadership skills, what would you recommend?
First of all, this is the best advice that you can give someone. Besides, there's certain clips, but there's one of my favorite quotes. It's no accident that the most successful people read. And we have a very, very lively book exchange at 2U. And I think I have one in my personal life as well. So I absolutely love this. So for a new manager, going back to what I was talking about insofar as meeting people where they are, I highly recommend The No Asshole Rule by Robert Sutton.
I have not even heard of that one.
It's so good. It's a quick read too. He's amazing. He's a Stanford business professor who got written up in a Harvard Business Review a number of years ago and then turned it into a book. And the idea is it's not about having a crappy day or this or that, but it's about treating people with respect. And that's really how you can go far. And it's a baseline at 2U that actually led to one of our guiding principles, so which is being candid, honest, and open. So
that's not what I thought you were going to say. Your guiding principle was. I was like, you put that.
And no jerks allowed here. So.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. And there's actually something else that I wanted you to actually expand upon, because I wrote this down a minute ago. And you're in good company when you said this, but you said something to the effect of the importance of surrounding yourself and connecting with people who may disagree with you. And so I interviewed a man named Barry Posner. He's one of the authors of the book, The Leadership Challenge, which so far today is the most recommended book on my show. But he said the exact same thing, that a lot of people only surround themselves, and this even goes back to what you're talking about who you hire, but a lot of people surround themselves with people who think the same way as they do. And it really takes some courage and intentionality to go seek out people who are actually going to challenge you and disagree with you. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. That's a great point. And that's a huge challenge. And that takes a lot of awareness to get there. And that doesn't necessarily need to be the first person you hire, but it should be the second and it should be the third. So if you hire people who agree with you, then you're going to get exactly that. You're going to have people who agree with you, and you'll live in an echo chamber. It's the same idea of people who are, you'll hear something similar, is that B people hire C people to kind of prop themselves up, but A people hire A plus people because they know that kind of the more water raises all boats kind of thing. I
like that.
Yeah. So the idea being everyone benefits from more opinions and a different way of thinking about things. And that's not just, happy, feely, anything like that. That's, if you think about things in the purest sense, there is probably someone who you will interact with who has a different point of view, right? Like a client or a candidate or something like that, whatever your situation is. By expanding the viewpoints of people who are on your team, it is so much more likely that you will have the opportunity to know how to react to that client, candidate, whatever your situation is, because you have someone who can see the world through that other person's point of view, and you are naturally more empathetic. And that's going to be the client who comes back to you as opposed to going back to someone else who can only see it through their own point of view.
Love that. So much good stuff there. If I had the repeat button right now, I would. And everyone listening has a repeat button, but that was a lot of good stuff in there. And unfortunately, though, it is time to say goodbye, Nicole. So I've had a ton of fun chatting with you, but do you have any final words of encouragement for future leaders or first-time managers who are listening today?
Absolutely. I'm going to tell everyone out there exactly what I tell my team in all things. Humble confidence and be bold.
Love it. Humble confidence and be bold. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Nicole. If someone listening wants to connect with you or connect with 2U, where's the best place for them to go?
Absolutely. You can certainly find me on LinkedIn, and you can find us at 2U.com. And then if you're interested in learning more about our culture, more about job opportunities, you can also follow us on Twitter at 2U Careers. Awesome. Well, I will put those links as well as your book recommendation in the show notes, which are available at yourbestmanager.com. And it's really easy because you can just go, there's a little magnifying glass in the top right corner of the website, and you can search Nicole or 2U, which is the number 2 and the letter U from the homepage, and find everything from today's episode. And managers, I'm not sure if you're traveling to or from work, getting a workout in, or simply taking some time to relax and listen today. But I hope that you've been encouraged and inspired from our conversation with Nicole Thomsen. Nicole, thanks again for sharing some of your story with the next generation of leaders. I truly appreciate it, and we'll talk soon. Jamie, you rock. Thank you. All right, everyone, that does it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Now hop over to yourbestmanager.com and take advantage of the free tools, resources, and training which I've created exclusively for you, the next generation of leaders. Oh, and have fun.